Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of the English pianist, keyboard player, vocalist. It's Cara Tivey, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Has been in a lot of bands, worked with Billy Bragg, also Stephen Duffy of the Lilac Times, Everything But the Girl. The Au Pairs, been on tour with Blur, and has recently done a collaboration with Deb Gooch, one-time member of, or no, still member of the band My Bloody Valentine. I will put a link in the notes below for you to click on. But this is the interview with Cara, so after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Cara, it's over to you.
It was probably very different to yours. I mean, you should be speaking to my husband because he is exactly the same as you in his musical influences. Mine were more to do with black music, I have to say. I heard Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yes.
Marvin Gaye, Trouble Man, which was a film soundtrack. But yeah, because I was an ear player, although I learnt to play by music, obviously, and did all the grades and all that business, I loved the chords. I loved the chords and the way that the chords interacted with the melody. And it was new. It was a new sound. I mean, I think that's every young person's experience when you're hearing something and you think, wow, I've never heard anything like this before. And I came from Northamptonshire. It was a very white county. I think there was one black girl in my school.
Yes.
When I was, in grammar school. So I had a very different life experience to the sort of artists that I was really getting into. So, yeah, I would cite them, Herbie Hancock. Earlier than that, my mother was quite musical. She was into people like Tom Lehrer.
Oh, yes.
Who I really loved. Dave Brubeck.
Right.
Tatum, Modern Jazz Quartet. So it was always quite jazzy and quite groovy, I think.
Did she have the Miles Davis and Bill Evans and Kind of Blue?
Yeah,
Was
Bill
it all
Evans.
that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bill Evans is the pianist as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. So when did the piano appear in your life?
Well, I can't remember not playing the piano. I would be sitting at the piano probably age 3.
Right.
But I started having lessons when I was 6. But as I say, I mean, I had this thing. Obviously, as a child, I didn't realise I had this thing called perfect pitch.
Right.
Which is very useful, as I found out as a session musician, because it's basically you know exactly where you are in music sort of instantly, really. And it's a very useful skill for improvising, for instance, because you can be listening to music, but you know where you are in the music immediately. You can create melodies, you can work chords around whatever you're doing. So when I was working with people like I worked with Stephen Duffy for about 4 years, and he just left me to my own devices. And I remember a session that I did with him where he just kept playing me songs. And I just would noodle all the way through them. And then he'd say, oh, yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. And then we'd move on to the next one.
Right.
So, I could work very spontaneously. and sort of, respond to what I was listening to. And
Yes.
that has really helped me throughout my career.
So your mother, so your mother is quite an influence. Did your dad have any influence on your musical journey at all?
My father was a trombone player. And I think, yes, he could improvise. I didn't really know my father very well because they were separated, in fact, before I was born.
Right.
My musical heritage, I think, really started with my grandfather. My grandfather had perfect pitch. My mother had it. I mean, she referred to it as the gift.
Yes.
And it was a connection that I had with my mum that was quite unique. We were sort of on the same wavelength. She died earlier this year, actually. But I mean, I think if I hadn't had that support from my mum, maybe I wouldn't have ended up being a session musician and getting into music and taking it seriously as a career.
No. Well, you went. So, did you go to grammar school and do A levels and?
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't good enough to be a concert pianist, and I certainly wasn't good enough to be an accompanist. And at that time, in 1975, when you were thinking about what you were going to go into, I knew I couldn't go to music college because I just wasn't good enough.
Right.
I was okay, but I wasn't, concert pianist material by any stretch of the imagination. But I went to drama school, which was my second love. And whilst I was at drama school, I realised that actually I wasn't good enough to be an actor because there were people there who were so much better than me. But
Right.
it was a creative course. And I went away to Birmingham to the School of Speech Training and Dramatic Art. And whilst I was there, I started playing with local bands. And that's how I got into music. And the scene in Birmingham in the early 80s was absolutely amazing, the music scene.
Yes. So did you go to places like Barbarella's and?
Yeah.
So
I
what
saw
was? I
Deaf
was good.
School.
Oh, you saw Deaf School, did you?
Yeah. Oh God, it's such a long time ago. Alex Harvey Band.
Oh.
Saw various people. But I lived in Moseley. It was the home of UB40. The Beat were over in Handsworth. And there were lots of, lesser bands. I had a couple
Yes.
of years of working with Basil Gabardon, who was a founder member of Steel Pulse. And he had splintered away from Steel Pulse for artistic reasons. I'm not exactly sure what. But it was just a wonderful place. And there was lots of sort of cross hybridizing of musicians. Musicians were playing with each other. And it was
Yes.
very fertile musical ground.
Yes, because I've done quite a lot of interviews with people from Birmingham from that time. Because there was a really good film that came out about Robert Lloyd from the
Oh, yes.
Nightingales, King Rocker, and so he captures that period of the late 70s and then into the 80s.
Yeah.
And then there's been an awful lot of other bands that came from Birmingham as well as that kind of two-tone scene. And I think Stuart Lee, the comedian, was he has some connection, doesn't he, with Birmingham as well?
Yeah. Well, he and Rob are very good friends.
Yes, as highlighted in the film. And then and there was a guy called Lawrence, wasn't there, who was in Felt and then was in Denham and then Go-Kart Mozart. And I think yes, he was also from that area. And then there was those indie bands like We've Got a Fuzzbox and We're Going to Use It.
Oh yeah, I worked with them.
So that was very exciting. So yes, because I do remember that reggae scene in the 80s, because I thought the roots reggae period of Aswad and Mistin Roots and Burning Spear and Steel Pulse were just amazing. Because I was obsessed with John Peel, to be honest. So I was always listening to him and then sort of obviously thinking, right, that's it, I must go and see Sly and Robbie and stuff like that. So yes, so when did you finish drama school? Was that the late 70s or early 80s?
1980.
Right.
Or was it 80? Well, I went in 1977. Yeah, so I finished in 1980. Signed on
As you do. So just going back slightly then, because you're obviously very studious and into jazz and Dave Brubeck and Take Five and Bill Evans. Did sort of like the current pop world and punk, did that kind of excite you, or were you... No.
No, sorry, David.
No, God, I do know quite a few people who went, no, that was not my one. Only later on they appreciated stuff.
No, in fact, when Deb and I do interviews together, it's quite funny because we are so diverse in our musical beginnings, you know, because she was really into punk and was untrained, and I was a classically trained pianist, and I loved musical music. I never got punk, never got it. The chords were just too basic.
Yes. Well, I remember doing an interview with Helen, who was the violinist in Dexys, and she had a classical, and it was like, right, I can either continue on this or join this band, and she joined the Dexys, and obviously, but she'd obviously, you know, punk would have been just like, well, this is just baby music. Well, this isn't at all talented, you know, but obviously, you know what I mean. All those hours of, you know, study and sort of knowledge of music. I mean, why would you be a punk player? Helen O'Hara, that was her name. Yeah, so she obviously had that crossover. But then there was people like, going back to my obsession with David Bowie, I mean, he had Mike Garson in his band, didn't he? He got Mike, who played piano and had that kind of influence after Ziggy Stardust. They did Aladdin Sane, and that's when you get all that piano that comes in.
Oh, my God. Well, that is amazing. Yeah. I do like Bowie, and the early stuff is really, really quite captivating. I mean, but I've come to him much later on in life, and really it's due to my husband's influence, you know. And my husband introduced me to dub in the early 80s because he is a Brummie.
Right.
Yeah.
So 1980, so exciting period. I mean, Thatcher got in 79, and then we had the Falkland War and the miners' crisis, and there was Greenham Common, and obviously, you know, the 80s wasn't looking particularly good. So you were signing on at that point. So where were you sort of thinking or heading at this point in life?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I did take myself seriously as a musician, and I was viewing it as a career. And I think that is quite important, that you're not thinking you're just doing a hobby and that sometime in the future you're going to get a proper job. I always viewed it as work. I mean, obviously very enjoyable creative work, but as any artist who is committed to their craft. And to be honest, I feel like I was in the right place at the right time, with a lot of the things. I won't say it happened to me, because I think, you know, by virtue of what I could do, you know, opportunities arose, let's say, and I worked with the Au Pairs.
Yes. So what album were you working with them on?
I didn't really do an album with them. The band split up, and they were looking for new people. Leslie was still there. The drummer Pete, and the guitarist Paul.
Right.
They were the sort of nucleus, and then they added other musicians. So there was another keyboard player, a trumpet player, a percussionist, and myself. And we did a few gigs. We didn't work on any albums.
Right, because they had done Playing with a Different Sex and Sense and Sensuality, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they because I've done a couple of interviews with Leslie, who's slowly making ground of coming back into music, I think.
Oh yes.
So, which is very exciting. So she was supporting the Chameleons very recently, and I think was Curious, who after her quite amazing career, which was quite different to being a pop artist, which is phenomenal, really. I mean, it's always interesting seeing how some people going a completely different way, and being a barrister. So she was, the band had sort of splintered, I guess, and I guess was she just trying to see if they've got any more traction in the band at that stage?
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah, it's so long ago. It's hard to remember the sequence of events, but I think it sort of fizzled, and that's when I started working with Basil. Um, and then I met somebody, and he said the Fine Young Cannibals were auditioning for a keyboard player, and I thought, oh, I'll go for that.
Yes.
And I went for that and got that job and did about a year with them. But then I suppose I wasn't particularly into their music, but it was work and it gave me more. It was probably the most professional work because we were doing TV and much bigger gigs.
Had
And
they
then,
done their first album at that stage?
yeah. And we were just gigging that album basically and promoting it.
Yes. God, that was
Yeah.
that was something when they came on the scene, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do remember. It was around that time they were there with a very slick production, and then Terence Trent D'Arby came along as well. It was all a bit mainstream for my indie pop taste, I have to say,
Of
but
course.
it
Yeah.
was very toe tapping and exciting, and
Yeah. It was kind of. I mean, yeah, the keyboard lines were not very challenging. So it was very easy work. Um, but we saw an advert in the back of the Melody Maker, which is where musicians used to find their work in the olden days. And it was for Everything But the Girl. And I'd loved Eden, their first
yes,
album. And so my husband and our friend Rob, we auditioned for them as a three-piece, and we got the job. And that was my first, something juicy, and I actually liked playing the music. And we
so
made
was that with the album Love Not Money?
it was Baby the Star Shine Bright we worked on,
Right,
which was
yes,
the third. I think it must have been their third
it is their
album.
third album,
Yeah.
actually. And what's your husband's name?
Mickey Harris.
God, Mickey Harris. Oh, anyway. Yes. So was he also a musician in various bands?
Yes, he started off with Everything But the Girl, and then he worked with Stephen Duffy and the Lilac Time.
Right,
Yeah, he became a permanent member of that group.
right.
Um, and then we started having babies, and Mickey ended up staying home because the Lilac Time fizzled out, the money ran out. They'd managed to be waged for about 3 years, which was amazing because they were signed to a major record company.
Yes.
And I was still working, so we did a bit of role reversal for a few years.
Fantastic. That's so 80s.
Yeah,
That was so good. Yes, I
yeah,
guess you would have been one of the few first couples to have that kind of gender balance, actually, because it was never like
definitely.
that in the 70s, was it?
No, no. I mean, it's not the sort of career. It's not great for a woman with with a young family, to be honest. When I worked with Billy Bragg, I was able to take the boys on tour with me, um, which was great. So I took them on both on tour as babies. Um,
That must have
and
been quite
then,
stressful, really, because I do remember hearing Suzanne Vega talking about one of her tours where she had her daughter, and so
yeah.
saying, they were, the baby crying or needing milk, and going to sort of in Europe, sort of trying to find a plug adapter of while sort of having 2 minutes before getting on stage, and sort of almost wiping the sick off, and then turning up on stage thinking, God, now I've got to perform Luca or Milena on the wall, thinking, God, my baby's crying in the background here. But
Yeah. I think when you're young, well, late 20s, early 30s, you take things in your stride. Um, and you just sort of get on with it. That's how I remember it. I mean, maybe I was stressed. I had a lot of support. I had people to look after George and Tim whilst I was on stage. They would often just be asleep in their buggy backstage whilst I was on stage playing.
Yes.
And
And did you enjoy your time with Everything But the Girl?
yes, yeah, it was lovely. Yeah, they're very civilized people to work with. They're not remotely rock and roll.
No.
Um, and yeah, it was nice to play what I would call proper music.
Well, Ben's probably very jazzy, isn't he?
He's very jazzy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Quite sophisticated, actually. It's
Yeah.
interesting because most bands and sort of doing these interviews, I realise they have mostly a bit of a 5-year narrative of the 80s, possibly the 90s, but, you know, that 12-month honeymoon period of trying to do it, especially the wonderful world of unemployment benefit and job seekers allowance and enterprise loan schemes gave people a chance to say, well,
Brilliant.
I don't have to do any restart interviews. I can just put myself down. As long as you got £1,000 in the bank account, which was always a bit of an odd thing.
David, you know it. You know it. That was me. That was me and Mickey, in fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how does one get £1,000 in the 80s? I always think that's quite funny.
We borrowed it from our parents.
Right,
And then gave it back.
And then, yes. But then, yes, that gave you that year. And that was just so important that you got, right, I can do something. And then, you know, in that time, there was those gatekeepers like John Peel and Janice Long, Kid Jensen, but yeah, especially John Peel. And then the 3 music papers. So a lot of bands could get a single and get played on John Peel, get a John Peel session, which was like fantastic at the Maida Vale studios. And then that first album, The Transit Van, and every town and city sort of has an indie night, don't they? So you can get a tour from being unemployed and, you know, wondering what's happening to at least thinking you're moving somewhere around the country, even if it is in a back of a little van with a amp next to your brain. And then you get the second album, things are going sort of good, and then the third album, it's a disaster because you've all hate each other and there's no money left. And so Everything But the Girl did well because they had those, and then they had Missing, didn't they, in the 90s, and that was like the big hit. Was otherwise most people were going, actually, because a lot of bands going, you know, like the Mighty Lemon Drops or the Primitives, were going, no one really wanted the next album, the 4th or 5th album. It was a bit like, do you want? No one wants it, do they? Forget it. Just forget. We'll split at this stage. So, yeah, some bands are fortunate with their longevity, and others just the stamina. I think it's stamina you need when you're in a musician, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's about being able to really look forward, look around and see what's going on. And I think Ben was very good at that. From Everything But the Girl. I mean, they did that work with, is it Portishead or Massive Attack?
I think
You know, he had feelers. You know, he had fingers in pies.
Yeah, it was definitely that sort of trip hop kind of vibe, wasn't it?
And I think
captured that club vibe, really.
Yeah.
It was very 90s. It definitely wasn't 80s, was it, really?
No.
Sort of we were. So, yes, Billy Bragg at that stage. It's funny with Billy because I loved his relationship songs and only wanted to listen to his political songs once. I know that's a confession to me, which one shouldn't, but, you know, it's like, you know, I loved his lyrics on his relationship songs. So on Workers Playtime, he has got Must I Paint You a Picture, which is probably my favourite song, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Lyrically, it's great, isn't it? And she's got a new spell. So you were on I'm Waiting for the Great Leap Forwards.
Yeah.
So you were on his kind of best album, really, weren't you?
Well, if you say so.
Yes. I quite like talking with the Taxman about poetry, but there was a bit, you know, it was like, I think there was the Milkman of Human Kindness, which was quite a nice song, but the rest was all about being in a trade union and going on strike.
Yeah.
It was of its time. I know we had, because the Red Wedge movement, did you get slightly, because there was sort of like Billy Bragg was part of that, and so I'm not sure of Everything But the Girl, but Red Wedge at that time and Thatcher was quite a big thing, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I did do a lot of benefit gigs for various organisations, Rock Against Racism, and obviously the miners with Billy. We did some miners' benefits.
And there was all those kind of, what about Reclaim the streets? Was those, because there was those kind of marches, weren't there? Weren't more, where women were just going out marching at night saying we need to
Yeah,
build.
I don't recall. No, I don't.
It was all part of our 80s, wasn't it? So when you were with Billy, were you working on that whole on the whole album, or just certain tracks on Workers Playtime?
I think it was. Oh my God, I think it was certain tracks, but I did work a lot on it. I did play a lot on it. I mean, the great thing was I could just do exactly what I liked. Um, you know, the only piece he ever gave me a direct instruction on was Tank Part Salute, which was a song about his father dying. And he had a line in that, and it's like a bugle call, which I played on the piano.
Right.
Um, but apart from that, it was just, feel your way through it,
And when you were
which
in
was,
and when you were in the studio, were you working with Joe Boyd at that stage? Was he
yes, yeah, yeah.
Joe, who'd worked on very early Pink Floyd and Nick Drake stuff? So can you remember much about those sessions?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Boyd he was quite an interesting producer. I actually don't think he was very musical in the musical sense. Um, I don't know whether he could even sing in tune. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be done for defamation.
No, I'm
What I
sure
think,
he wouldn't mind,
what I
actually.
think he was really good at was bringing people together who would work together. So we worked with, oh God, I'm
Was
having
it BJ Cole?
we worked with Danny Thompson. Danny Thompson.
Tony Thompson on double bass.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
very
that
jazz.
was yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I really love working with Danny. Um, yeah, great feel. Um, you know, and I think that's what Joe was really good at, just bringing the parties together and then
Yes.
letting them create together.
He was a bit of a vibe engineer, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
he? Oh, was Michelle Shocked on that album as well?
She might have been. I mean, we toured with Michelle in America. Yeah.
Blimey. What was
Uh,
your American experience like?
it was very, it was all American. We travelled around in a transit van. Pete Jenner, the manager, Bill's longtime manager, he just drove us around. We all travelled around. We drove everywhere. We didn't do a lot of internal flights. We kept the flights to a minimum. So it meant you were ending up in these little hick towns and, staying in motels at the side of roads in the middle of nowhere. Um, and we did lots of really epic journeys. We went through the Canadian Rockies. We went to Banff. We drove through Arizona.
Nice.
So we saw a lot of the land, and I think that was a really amazing experience. Looking back on it,
Yes.
to traverse America from one side to the other in a van.
Yes.
And the fans, I suppose we were playing small to medium-sized venues, but the fans were so adoring because it was very politically motivated, and we'd play at political rallies. Jesse Jackson was up for election, and there was yeah, it was sort of quite a mixed bag,
I could imagine. Yes, I think it must be quite strange for a lot of bands having to, if they're slightly large, big in, become quite well known and playing big venues in Britain, and then having to sort of start again on that little circuit of just,
Oh,
getting it together. It must be quite hard to dig in. I think actually a lot of bands also, I noticed, often would say, we toured America and came back and split up because it just kind of did us in, because it was just too traumatic and it was just too exhausting, and we were all frazzled by the end of it. So
yeah.
I could imagine it's quite hard work if you're, especially driving over land and spending 6, 8 hours getting from one place to another and thinking,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's exhausting. But anyway, so did you just have a piano? Did you have a keyboard at that stage? And just, how did
Yes, I
you?
had a piano. I think I had an organ, maybe a Korg organ with drawbars, because Bill liked a bit of organ with Leslie on, you know. Yeah, it was just an electric piano.
Yes,
Essentially, you know, I'm a bit of a Puritan, really. I just love playing the piano.
yes,
I mean, I'm happy to play keyboards and use other sounds, but uh, I'd always have a keyboard with a weighted key, you know, weighted keyboard like a piano if I didn't have an acoustic piano.
yes. Then you worked on that compilation, didn't you? The Sergeant Pepper compilation, and
Yes.
contributed.
Yeah.
She's Leaving Home as well,
Yeah.
and that got to #1 in the UK
We
charts.
get to number one. We went to, I think we were in America and we came back and I think we were doing Top of the Pops or something the next day because, you know, that record. I mean, obviously we were helped by Wet, Wet, Wet being the A side because they
Yes,
were very, very mainstream and very successful. But yeah, it was a nice little fillip.
I would imagine
And it was
actually.
nice to earn some money for Childline, which I think is a great charity. You know,
Well, quite, yeah.
met
Well, who did you meet?
Esther Ranson.
Oh yes, Esther. Yeah,
Yeah,
God, that's life. Esther,
yeah,
blimey,
that's
she
life.
was.
Yeah,
That's yeah, God, with Cyril, somebody who used to sort of tell those weird stories with
yeah,
and always got very amused and smiley when he looked at sort of odd-looking vegetables. Marvelous.
that's right.
70s
Yeah.
TV. Yeah, just can't ever forget it, can you really? The amusing side of a carrot. So then, did you also work with Michael Stipe and Natalie Merchant from 10,000
Yes,
Maniacs?
we did a little Eastern European tour. We went to Berlin. In fact, that was quite an amazing day. We went to look at the wall, which had recently come down. In fact,
Yeah,
I've got a little piece of the Berlin Wall.
I have as well.
Have
Which
you?
is just a bit of, yeah, I sort of had a slight plastic bag which is crumbling with these bits of odd bit of concrete. I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure what to do with it really. And unfortunately, my bits don't seem to have got much paint, bits of paint, but not a lot. You know, it's a little bit underwhelming because I think people are just chipping it, and I thought, oh, I must get some of this and take it home. And
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what to do with the damn stuff really.
It seemed hugely symbolic
God, it did,
at
and
the
quite
time
yes, and
of
watching
going
those
there.
news stories, and so it was quite amazing seeing it just as it was all still standing when I went. So were you playing with Michael and Natalie at that stage?
Yes. Just, I mean, because the three of them were doing this tour, I did play for some of their pieces. I remember doing The Painted Desert, which I think was a Natalie Merchant song, um, with her and Michael. God, I can't really remember any of the other material.
Because there was one song that he did, and I don't know if they'd written it by then, but there was a song called Photograph, which just really, just lyrically is just brilliant. And he sings it and she does backing vocals, but you didn't play on that particular track.
David, I can't remember.
I'd be just like so excited. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know if they'd actually written it by then, but it's just lyrically stunning, actually. That must have been incredible seeing those two because I was obsessed with 10,000 Maniacs and,
Oh,
quite liked, REM, but they were just so becoming so big at that stage.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, I had never heard either of those bands' music. I wasn't into them. I'd barely heard of REM. So this Michael Stipe chap, yeah, it was just somebody else who,
Yes.
who I was going to work with. You've got to think about my musical roots and the sort of stuff that I would have been listening to, and they they just weren't on my radar at all.
No.
But that's, Bill does have that ability to sort of bring people together, and uh, and I remember it very fondly. I think I was pregnant actually when I was I was pregnant when I was working with them, because of course it was that period where I was either pregnant or having a baby. So yeah.
Yes. Well, there you go. It has to be done. Then you worked with Billy on this his next album, International. Was
Yeah,
this?
did I?
I think you did. I think it's got yes. You are on it.
Yeah.
So that's the one which has quite a few cover versions, doesn't it? As well as a few written ones. That was his on his own short-lived record label, Utility Records, which was
Oh,
much more
yeah.
political, but probably a
Yeah.
bit tricky. And and it has sort of Blake's Jerusalem on it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
youngest son came home today.
Yes.
Yes, well, yes. Well, that was obviously that was quite an easy one to play on. And then did you play on the 91 album, Don't Try This at Home?
Yes. Yeah. Wasn't that a compilation though? Or was it a
It's a six. No, I don't think it was because, was
no?
it actually? Wait a minute. It had Accident Waiting to Happen,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sexuality, which also features Johnny Marr, and
Yeah,
a
that's
cover of
right. Yeah.
Dolphins of Fred Neil, and
Yeah.
You Woke Up My Neighborhood as
Oh, I
well.
love Dolphins. That was such a
Yes.
lovely song.
So yeah, so you put piano on quite a few of those and keyboards as well and
Yeah.
backing vocals. That was a really commercial one, wasn't it, at that time?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you get to meet Johnny Marr, by the way?
Yes. Yeah. I went up to Manchester, baby in tow. Tim, that was my second son. We went up to Johnny Marr's studio, and I put some keyboards on Sexuality. Um, yeah, I think I just did a day's work with him. Then
Yes.
I'm sure we played it out live, or maybe we did some TV. Um, yeah, and I know we did some TV with sorry, who was it? Johnny Marr and Kirsty MacColl. Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah, yeah,
That's the ones. Yeah, so she's also, yes, appears on it as well. Oh, dear old
yeah,
Kirsty. We loved her so much, didn't we?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so she did Cindy of a Thousand Lives. And yeah, so then the 90s, so Britpop suddenly comes along. Billy Bragg has quite a gap here between him and doing that and William Blake. So do you
Yeah.
then when do you get the call from Blur to sort of work up with them?
Well, Bill had decided that he was going to take a break, and I was having a bit of a panic. My husband wasn't working. He had decided to go back to college to retrain to learn about web, because he was a graphic designer,
Right.
and he then retrained to become a web designer. But in the interim, we were absolutely brassic. So I
Yes.
auditioned for Blur. In fact, I did 2 auditions for them, um, and got that job. And that was just touring and gigging, no recording. But it was great work. Damon is such a creative writer for the piano and the keyboard.
Yes.
So I was playing all of his lines essentially. Um, I mean, they were so cheapskate. The first audition, I probably learnt half their set because they just kept throwing things at me. Damon would show me the lines and I'd be playing the lines. So I came away and I'd probably learnt about 7 songs with them that afternoon. And I thought, oh, well, I think I'm in with a chance there. Um, but no, they called me back for a second audition. And evidently I was up against somebody else. And so in that audition, they gave me another set of songs to just learn, on the spot, and I played all of those, and then they offered me the job. But it turned out they were really worried because I'd worked with Billy Bragg that I was going to be really expensive.
Right.
And so they were worried about how much I was going to cost, I think.
Right.
But anyway, it was fun.
In those situations, do you have to do it yourself, or do you have some agent that sort of works out how much the contract is and how long and how much you'll get paid? Is there
Yeah,
much legality? Because I couldn't imagine an HR department here, but you must have something similar.
I think I learned a lot working as a musician. How about asking for money? Because it's really quite a, a barrier to get over, because, you know, people will just offer you what they think unless you're able to assert yourself, not
Yes.
in an aggressive way. Um, with Blur, I think, it seems like quite a lot now. I think I started off, I was working for about £500 a week, which isn't a huge amount, really.
No.
When you think about, you know, people like Elton John, I knew what he was paying his session musicians. Um, but the great thing about them was, as they just became so successful whilst I was working with them. They'd had Modern Life was rubbish. Modern Life is rubbish. And that was the album I started touring with them. And then they had Park Life, and all of a sudden it was a very exciting time to be with them. Um,
Well,
I
I could
remember,
imagine, and that was the height of the John Major Britpop years, wasn't it? Really.
yeah.
So, Dave, you just went along with that first album, Modern Life, and then did that tour, and then they wrote the next album,
Yeah,
which was even bigger. And then was it
yeah.
the case? Was it a similar kind of relationship, or were they saying, "Look, would you like to tour this? You don't need to audition for this one."
Oh, no. I was their keyboard player by then.
Right, you'd
So
become part of
yeah,
it.
I'd get all the work. Yeah. And we did lots of TV, all the usual TV programs, promotion.
And when you're
Um,
touring, do you tour with the band? Because I know I've heard, various horror stories where, the main people of the band have a lovely way of getting from one gig to another and accommodation, and the rest of the band have to just sort of somehow hitchhike around and sort of eat
yeah,
scraps from
no.
the...
Generally, we were all together, and we were all together with the crew as well.
Right.
And it was quite sort of equal. Um, I think I can only remember a couple of times when I didn't travel with them, but essentially I was well looked after. Yeah,
Yes.
um, yeah, and I was able to up my fee as well as they became more and more successful. I just used to go to the tour manager and say, "Well, perhaps we could go to blah blah blah," and yeah, they'd just agree.
Yes, well, I found, yes, it must be quite tricky at times, wasn't it, having to deal with all those,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah,
never
because
that
you are
comfortable.
your own manager. I did have an agent actually, and I was talking to my husband about this the other day because I honestly don't know how I came by them. Maybe I responded to something in the Melody Maker, but they got me a job in a video with Robert Palmer, and I've been selected by Photograph. And I said to the agent, "Well, you better let him know that I'm pregnant." And I just want to let him know that I'm not, I don't look like I normally look, as it were. And they rejected me. And I think now, well, he missed a trick, because it was, you think about, oh, what?
Nana Cherry?
Yeah, Nana Cherry. It was just so it was just so good to see a woman like that in pop
Yes.
music. And it wasn't something to be avoided or shunned.
Yes.
Um, But yes, I did have an agent, but I don't think that lasted for long.
No. And then Billy comes back with William Blake. So when when they finish the next tour, is it that's the end of that? And then you
Yeah.
sort of work with Billy again on William Blake. Do you?
No. After Blur, um, I we I'd had a bit of what can I say? I'd had a bit of a eureka moment. It was horrible. I felt I was on a plane that was going to crash. We'd flown from Denmark to Madrid, and the plane just couldn't right itself. So we were trying to balance in the air, and it was going like this. And I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to crash. And I've got my husband and children at home. And suddenly it felt really wrong. And at that point, I, had a real change of heart. And I thought, no, I cannot continue with this work. It was so lucrative by this point, and it was very hard for me because I was the breadwinner. But
Yes.
we discussed it, and I said no, I can't do it anymore. And I started looking for work locally, and I ended up teaching and left Blur.
What,
And
during the tour?
no, not during the tour. I think I did one more short American stint with Bill, and then that was it. And then I knocked it on the head and said, no, this isn't for me anymore. And the boys were about 3 and 1 at that point. And I just thought, it didn't feel right. And then I did 25 years of teaching.
Right. So you
Yeah.
were there. So was that sort of private teaching, or were you in a sort of college?
I taught at the Royal National College for the Blind. Very different work, and I was teaching performing arts and music and the music business. So really, I used all the things I'd either learnt at drama college or that I'd learnt whilst being on tour and working within the music business. And my career just went off on a very different trajectory. But it was a really good, it was a really good move.
Yes.
As I said earlier, it's very hard for women with a family to do that kind of work. There's always a compromise. But I feel I made the right decision at the right time.
Yes. Well, it's good to feel positive about it. So then,
Yeah.
how do you then meet Debs to do this album, The Golden Thread?
Well, I met Deb socially probably 20, 25 years ago.
Oh,
Um,
2000. God,
yeah,
see, I did the maths. But that's
yeah. We met through
sorry.
mutual friends. I was very friendly. A good friend of mine ended up going out with a very good friend of Deb's, and that's how I met Deb. I didn't even know anything about My Bloody Valentine. I I hadn't even listened to them, but I was pretty sure I wouldn't like them.
Yes, I would have put money on that one too. Actually, a safe bet for that one, wasn't it?
So we gradually built a friendship. Never occurred to us to work together. As I said before, we came from very diverse musical backgrounds, but we were working at Prima Donna. I think she was on a speaking panel, and I was playing, and she came to my gig, and at the end, we both got a bit drunk, and she said, I think you need some noise running through your music. Do you fancy having a little play together? Do you fancy getting together and, seeing what we can do? So I said, okay, then. Um, and that's how the thing with Deb started. And I'd been made redundant. When I was 60, so 6 years ago, I was made redundant from the college. They closed all the arts courses. Um, and So I'd been trying to fill in with bits of work here and there. Got some Arts Council funding for a project, which I did with an ex-student of mine. So yeah, it sort of came at a good time. So Deb has access to a studio once a week. And so one Tuesday, I took the train down to London and we just started playing together.
Oh, is this the My Bloody Valentine studio, or
No,
connected to the?
it's a friend of Deb's, and she's got her own studio
Right.
in Islington or something. Yeah, it's
Nice.
a basement studio, but it's lovely. So yeah, a few tentative starts. I mean, it's very weird, even though you know somebody, to sort of start playing with them. It's quite an intimate thing. And I suppose we were a little bit shy with each other. And we weren't sure what we were going to produce. We weren't really sure what the project would spawn. But we persevered with that. And we learnt a lot from those early improvisation sessions. And we literally just sat down and made noise together.
Yes. And so did you kind of put the piano part, and then Deb's sort of then listen to that, and then sort of come with her part, and then potentially
No, not
lyrics?
really. No, we would sit down and I'd be listening to her noises, and would sort of weave lines in and out and try and pitch it into her pitch. She's basically, well, no, she's not a wall of sound. She's infinitely more than that. But, she's feeding back on the bass, and I'm trying to find some sort of sonic route into that with piano motifs.
Yes.
And yeah, a lot of it was free. So some of the stuff like the last, oh God, I can't remember the name of our pieces.
So there was one which is You Take It With You When You Go, which is quite piano-led, isn't it? And quite sort of spacious. So there's Secret Place as well, which is the last track. And there's the last Tear Falls as well.
The last Tear Falls, case in point. I mean, there is no click track. That was a completely free-form improvisation. And to this day, I struggle with playing it live. I can play it live, but every time it's different. So there's a lot of improvisation in that. It's something that we've learned, that we need to have some sort of basic beat or even a metronome going through. So there is some reference point. Otherwise, it's so mellifluous. It has a life of its own, and it is that thing. But then if you try and recreate it, it's going to become a different thing.
Yes.
But you're trying to retain the essence of the piece. That's what I think about those that don't have any beats at all. Latterly, we've started working with at least a click track, so that there's some reference point to where the beginning of the bar is, for instance. So yeah, it's been a lovely, lovely learning curve for both of us, but we now just settle into it. I mean, we did a session a couple of weeks ago together. I suppose technically we're working on the difficult second album, which
Right.
isn't difficult at all.
No.
It's not difficult. I feel like we've created a signature sound together through our improvisations. I don't think there's anything that sounds quite like it.
No.
And I
So
think it's...
I was going to say, how do you go from like those, initial sort of sessions that you did when you were just kind of getting to get a feel for each other, to actually then think, right, how are we going to record the tracks, and how do we make them? How do we know when it starts, and how do we know how to finish it? How does that process then work?
Okay, so everything we've ever done, Deb has recorded. So we've recorded it from day one, all of those sessions. And Deb, to her credit, then goes home, listens to it all, and she actually rationalizes it into pieces. I mean, she hides her light under a bushel. She is such an excellent producer, or alchemist. I think she's an alchemist because she fashions the pieces. So she'll use elements of what we've used in our improvisations, and then she adds to them. I mean, something like Secret Place, she's put a beat to, and I love her beats. They're just so, they're almost medieval. She's got a great ear for what works sonically in a mix. And she's very modest about it all. But honestly, she messaged me yesterday and said, I'm working on something else. And occasionally something just pops into my email and it's a new piece and it's barely recognisable from how I remember it, you know?
Yes, it must be quite interesting. So
it's lovely.
So you do the piece with her, then she takes it, and then you then get to hear it weeks, months later, thinking, right, that's
and
interesting.
She adds to it, you know.
Yes.
She's sampling her vocals. A melody line that I might have just played in an improvisation, she's created whole lyrics, she's created whole songs out of. So it really is a two-way musical interaction, you know. Oh God, this is so dreadful. I can't remember the name of our pieces.
Well, there's it starts with Bad Habits, which has got a vocal line. There's The Longest Way, and then You Take It With You, which is random.
Keep going.
Mad Mike, mark my words. The Last Tear Falls.
Yeah, Mad Mike, mark my words, came from a piano melody. The song did. In fact, it had a working title of Mad Mozart, because I just played loads of weird classical sounding shit through it, basically.
Right.
But yeah, it's surprising what it works as a catalyst for Deb, you know.
Yes. Do you ever sort of, because I don't know if this is, because from memory, listen to it, there's that little piece from, is it Eric Satie, which is quite famous. We all sort of, the one piece that everyone knows of his. Was that slightly what runs in You Take It With You? Because that's a bit more of a spacious piano line in that, isn't it? From memory.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I didn't listen to a lot of Satie, but I am familiar with his work. I don't know. You might say it's a bit sort of derivative. It's essentially whatever Deb started off with, and it might be a harmonic or it might be some low rumbling noise. I'm always trying to seek the notes in it, because I've got to have something to latch on um, to create. So yeah, maybe it is a influenced by Satie. I don't know. You're the first person to suggest that.
Well, yeah, well, it just had a different sonic quality to that particular track, which I particularly liked. So, yes. And then playing it live, what was that like? Was that quite an interesting experience then, sort of learning the piece from what Debs had produced to then think, right, that's how we need to sort of recreate it? Or do you feel like, shall we just keep it quite free form live? Or do you feel like you want to stick faithfully to the pieces?
As far as possible, yes. I think all of the pieces have an identifying feature or two within them. So I think as we work on ensuring that we get the identifying features in them, so an audience member who has actually listened to the album will recognise the pieces. So yeah, there's a looseness, but also there is obviously more than an attempt to refer back to the pieces, to try and replicate them.
Yes, and it was very lucky-ish, he says, getting a record label like Tiny Global Productions to sort of like do the admin. Because I can imagine as an artist, you know, producing things is one thing and being in that headspace, but then having to deal with sort of distribution, manufacturing, you know, going to the post office with records that you have to send out. You know, it must be quite a relief to be able to just give all that to some other organisation to say, look, you can deal with that, and we'll do the music.
Do you know, it was a turning point, I think, certainly for me, because I really wasn't sure about it, to begin with. I mean, I loved it, but I thought I did wonder whether people would get it. And then all of a sudden, we got really raving feedback from Deb's agent. They'd had it on repeat. And Tiny Global were absolutely raving about it and wanted to promote it, you know. So they're really invested in it. And they've been really lovely people to work with. I think we've landed on our feet. I think they were the first people who Deb approached, and she knew them through a friend of a friend or something, you know.
Oh, yes.
Because we discussed doing it ourselves on our band camps. But, you know, you've got limited circulation as an individual. Um, and the sort of people who buy my solo stuff, I don't think they would necessarily be into the stuff that I've done with Deb. So it was always, I think we were both of a mind that we wanted to find a record company who would help us, you know.
Yes.
Like you say, it takes so much out of the whole process. You don't have to worry um, about promoting. You've got an agent setting you up with a few gigs. You know, it's nice having that. It's nice having that support.
And did you play at the London venue Cafe Otto by any chance?
We
Is that
played at the King's Place. That was our London debut at the end of last year. And
excellent?
we also we did a sort of a warm-up gig in a Soho house in the Strand, which was just an amazing venue. Possibly not quite the right sort of audience. But anyway, they took it in good part. That was our first outing. The King's Place was our first proper gig, and it was really well received. I was stunned. I was flabbergasted,
Fantastic.
because you just don't know. Dipping your toe in unknown waters. That's how it felt to me.
Yes.
And we've done a few. We've had about 10 gigs in Europe this year, and they've all been really well received. I'm just always surprised at the
Oh,
end.
that's so nice to be able to travel as well and get a chance
Yes,
to meet a
yeah.
different audience, which is fantastic. Did you go, was it Germany, France, Spain, Italy?
We haven't done Spain as yet. There are plans for Spain. We've done the Netherlands. Yeah, France, Italy, yes. So far.
God, that must be fantastic to be able to go out and perform doing these kind of numbers actually on a live audience, and also get to meet various people at the end of the gig as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's people are coming, really. I have to be honest and say they are coming to see Deb, because Deb has created a name for herself. She's played in a very, very big cult band, you know, and so I'm grateful for Deb because she's obviously a good person to work with in terms of actually generating an audience, because I'd probably get one person. Um, but I think in the main, people are pleasantly surprised by what they're hearing, and a lot of people are saying that It's unique. They've never heard anything like it. And I'm playing to audiences. I've never played to audiences who all who are all dressed in black.
Oh, good. I was wondering what your typical audience was like. I bet they read the Wire magazine, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to generalise.
Oh God, no, we don't want to generalise, but I could.
No, but it's very
But
different. We're playing rock gigs. I've never really played rock gigs. So it's a very different experience for me. But of course, the audiences are just as warm as any other audience, and they're really into it. So yeah, it's
a nice way to yes, in this rather interesting decade to have something quite positive going on, which is always a relief.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's been very, very positive experience, and I just love working with Deb.
Well, yes, and so unusual. It's definitely not like Stephen Tintin Duffy or Billy Bragg, is it?
No, no, no. I mean, it's the first time we have written our own album, and we're releasing in our own names. I mean, I'm 66, Deb is 60. It's been a long time coming, really. I've always been a session musician for other people. And I don't want to do that work anymore. I want to work in my own right. And this has provided us with, this is our opportunity. So
excellent. God, I think Stuart Lee does record reviews in a magazine called The Idler, though recently he hasn't. But I'd imagine he's going to love this record, actually. I'm going to look out.
He gets to hear it.
I hope he will. He sniffs around these kind of yes. I always look out for what he reviews. It's always interesting because they're often quite left field or whatever one likes to term it. So it'll be interesting. So then with this album and these live dates, what have you got lined up for the rest of the year and other projects?
Me personally, I haven't got anything. I haven't got anything going on, but I write a lot at home. I've basically written an album of solo piano work. That's what I've been doing, really, probably for the last 10 years. I've just been composing. Well, I won't say I've just been composing. I've been composing.
Yes.
When you have a young family and a family growing up, your headspace is taken up. But what I've found, and also it's about their musical education when they're growing up as well. You need to invest in your children's music as well, obviously.
Yes. And become familiar with what's coming out of their bedroom.
Yeah. I mean, my elder boy George is a dubstep producer. He's a music producer, and he is incredible in his own right, and he's got his own following. Very different to what I do, but very, very groovy, sort of jazzy dubstep, influenced by people like Bach. He learnt the cello as a boy.
Right.
And very influenced by jazz. So yeah, he's gone on his own musical course. So yeah, I think being made redundant was really good for me, although it was frightening at the time and it rendered me quite poor for some time. I did have lots of headspace. Then we had COVID. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
All of a sudden, my creative brain was flourishing. So I've released a couple of albums on my Bandcamp, and I've now got material for a third, but I'm waiting for a sound engineer, Petra, who I met in the Netherlands, who I really got on with. And hopefully I'm going to produce the album with her. But she's out on tour in America at the moment. But yeah, I'm writing, and I'm still getting together with Deb for occasional sessions, but she is going to be tied up as of September because My Bloody Valentine
Yes.
going to be gigging again towards the end of the year and into the new year. And then I think Deb and I are hoping to then reconvene maybe around March and April and start gigging again. That's what the agent is looking forward to.
That's very exciting. I have to say, your solo albums, they've got the most beautiful artwork, actually.
That's my husband.
Right. Wow. I see Zone. That's very striking, isn't it?
Yeah, that's our apple tree.
In blossom with a blue sky. That is stunning, actually.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yes.
I'll tell him.
There you go. So so you've done 3 solo albums, did you say? Or
I've done 2 solo albums, yes.
which are yes, on Bandcamp, and you've got a third one possibly coming out.
Yes. It's in the pipeline.
But you look, well, thank you ever so much for your time. Thank you for sort of being so, able to, give me an hour. That's been amazing. So, yes, I'll look forward to your next projects as well, which is all good.
Thank you.
Have a lovely Sunday, and
you too.
Thanks again for your time.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that is the end of the interview. A massive thank you to Cara for giving me the time for that. This has been the C86 show. David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do a C86 show and my name. And all these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Anyway, have a great week. Stay safe.